The efforts that the administration have put in place are really misguided. The so-called stimulus plan is really, it is doing nothing for the economy. You know, 77% of the stimulus plan doesn't trigger until next year. I think only about 15% of it has been spent at this point. And so I think we need to roll that back, because basically what we're doing is committing for obligations where we have to spend money that we have to borrow from abroad. And the problem of all of this is that it is weakening the dollar. The world is awash with dollars at this point. You know, 75% of all the dollars that circulate around the world circulate abroad. And the world is beginning to signal to us that it doesn't want any more dollars. The Chinese are clearly signaling this. The Indians, you know, just sold back or bought back several $1 billion worth of gold and shipped it off to India for safekeeping. And we're seeing the dollar buckle. If the dollar gets weaker and weaker, which it is showing signs of doing, then this has a real potential for really disrupting the economy. Because if the world isn't willing to buy Treasury bills, notes, and bonds, the Treasury still has to fund that obligation. So interest rates will start rising. And everything keys off of the Treasury rates. So if Treasury rates start rising, mortgage rates will start rising, business loans will start rising, and it will wash across the economy and it'll put the brakes on it. So we've got to be very careful about this excess spending that we're doing. Same time, the Federal Reserve has been flooding the markets with money, which is all borrowed at the same time. You know that Washington's committed over $13 trillion to this recession at this point, and I think much of it is misguided. So I think we've got to roll those back. But in addition to that, we've got to basically focus in on the regulatory apparatus, which is overseeing the financial system. We've got a mess in Washington. We've got 7 or 8 financial agencies that are all charged with regulating different parts of the financial markets, and they're all in competition with each other. They hate each other. They don't talk to each other. In fact, they're suing each other. The CFTC and the SEC are suing each other as to who has jurisdiction over derivatives. It's a complete mess. Yeah. And the financial institutions are basically playing one off against the other.
Does the American taxpayer have the right to know who AIG has made whole with U.S. tax dollars, with TARP tax dollars?
Considering the billions of dollars in there, you bet we do. These are so-called institutional investors. Yeah. Institutional investors are supposed to be knowledgeable and smart and on top of the risks that they undertake when they invest in private companies. There is absolutely no way that the United States government should have been bailing them out. And you see Secretary Geithner, the Treasury, who actually used to work for me, you see him coming under enormous criticism for the basically leaving a lot of money on the table.
Are you saying that AIG was not too big to fail? Should have been allowed to fail, or?
I think it would have been terribly disruptive if the whole thing went down in a giant collapse. I think the government is wise to act as a shock absorber to let it down so that it didn't disrupt the entire financial markets. But we should not have been bailing them out and making sure and keeping investors whole. We should have allowed investors, both equity investors and bondholders, to take a hit on that. We didn't do that, and I think that that's a big part of the problem that we have now. And I say this having spent 35 years of my career in the financial markets.